In this episode, I'm joined by Linda Stringer, a well known self employed estate agent renowned for a strong personal brand and smart social media marketing. If you're a self employed estate agent or think about making the leap, you'll hear honest insights on fear, mindset, and building trust online. Linda shares what's worked for her, what's been tough, and how she's grown a business that truly feels like her own. Hope you enjoy it. Linda, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Now, you are super busy, to say the least. So, talk me through. So, you were at Spice of Heart before you decided to go out and kind of do it on your own. What was the kind of catalyst, or what was anything in particular that happened that made you kind of not want to just change to another estate agency job with a different brand, but actually to go out and actually do it yourself?
I've been at Spice of Heart for like 10 years, and then there was a short stint that I decided to do recruitment, which was horrific, but, um and then I also came back and did and worked at an independent. So, I just knew at that point when things were changing at Spice of Heart and the whole it was lockdown, all that kind of jazz that kicked off, that, I didn't I love the job, but I didn't wanna go and do it for somebody else. It'd just be the same thing different day, same shit, different day. Do you know what I mean? I just wanted it to be something that I had control over. There was things that I wanted to how I wanted to market stuff and do things and videos that I knew I would never be able to do unless I did it for myself.
So you're testing my knowledge of timing wise here, but I seem to remember the lockdown in 2020 was March the 23rd because that was my birthday, which was fantastic timing by Boris. There you go. So what made you want to launch your own estate agency business like 3 months after lockdown kind of kicked in and kind of was just on the way out? What would possess you to do it at that time?
What would possess me? So at the time, I was, because they furloughed staff and then they had some staff that came back on a salary sacrifice. I was one of those staff members, and it just felt like I got all these targets to hit. I was running around. People had my mobile number, and so at one point, I think it was I rang my manager at the time, and I'd come out of a house, and I was like, "I don't know what I'm doing this for." She went, "What do you mean?" I went, "Because I've just been to this guy. They obviously know that I work for Spice of Heart, otherwise I wouldn't have been called out to it. But at that point, I had put his house for sale, done the viewings, and they had my number, and that was it. So other than being invited out initially, the rest of it was me. So I think at that point, I was just like, well, actually, I know that I can do this myself. So I decided to take the leap, but nobody'd heard of EXP at that point. So, even the conversation was then like, "Well, it's not like your competition, is it?" I went, "Oh, okay,
Mm.
okay."
Yeah. Now look at them looking back and thinking, oh, but actually, actually, yeah, funny you say that. So how important was the use of your name? Because obviously there's lots of brands out there that you can go with. But obviously, I know you've historically mentioned that kind of having your name and Linda Stringer being an important part of it. Why were you so passionate about having that?
Well, it's not it sounds like it's a bit ego driven, doesn't it? But it's not that. It's just that whenever I was on videos on with Spice Out and things like that, they always had your name at the bottom, and I used to do all our social media as well. So I knew that my name was already out there in those areas that I could cover. So it just felt like it would be an easier I just didn't want to hide behind another brand. I wanted to be just me, really.
And I'm pretty sure from my research, you might correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think you mentioned before you got your first completion within 10 weeks. Is that right? We got start. How I mean, no, that's coming out the blocks to say the least. So how did that transpire? Because obviously, I think even today, if you've got a completion in 10 weeks, and you had a head start on it, you'd still probably struggle. So how did you get such a quick turnaround with regard to instructions and property selling? How did you get such a good start in self-employed?
Because I didn't have any money. So I knew that I had to number 1, I just thought, "Right, if I'm gonna put my name out there and it doesn't work, then I'll go and get another job." Didn't want that to happen, don't wanna be the failure, so I put my all into the fact well, I use social media a lot, because and my friends and family and all the people that know me and all that kind of stuff and knowing your name, but I use social media a lot because it was free, and then once I got that sale in the bag, I'm like, "Well, I need it to come back out of the bag because I have got no money." So I just went for it.
And what was your experience like of social media beforehand? Because I appreciate, I'd imagine that Spice of Heart were fairly, how can I put this? Social media nervous, shall I say, is probably the best way of putting it. So I imagine you wouldn't have had your own sort of personal brand plastered over Spice of Heart. How confident were you kind of jumping into sort of the world of personal brand and your face in front of camera and your face on boards and all that sort of stuff?
Um, not as though fair with it as you might think actually, but when we first started having to do video at Spice Heart, everyone knows this story now, but I just cried my eyes out. I didn't want to do it. And then I got over myself, and then I did do it. So I knew that all the videos that were out there within our branch had usually got me on it and my name on it and everything. And social media nervous, no, that they just ran it from the centralized team. I don't know how they do it now, but so I used to do our branch one, which would then be more of our properties and not just corporate stuff from you do you know what I mean? It was more local to and apparent to people in our area. So I knew that by getting it out there, then that was always gonna be a win. I didn't have my own I did have my own, Facebook page, but it wasn't called Linda Stringer or anything. It was called Homes, Health and Happiness as it's happened. So I'd got, like, a little bit of a following already, and then obviously I just switched that then to be me. And then the faces on the board, again, how I just thought, well, people know it's me, that otherwise how would they know because nobody'd heard of EXP. So I just thought, I'm going for it. I'm not bothered to get my face out there.
And how has your mindset changed that? Because I've researched obviously quite a lot of your content before we came on today, and obviously looked at some of your video content. I think your drone pilot, by the way, needs a pay rise wherever he is. I was terrified he's like the wall of Windows. He does an amazing job. So how did you get from sort of Linda who cries doing her first video to the super confident on camera? Come on guys, let's have a look in, and look like you just nail it first take every time. So how has that shift kind of progressed over the years?
Oh, it's just you getting out of your comfort zone, isn't it? Once you're out of it and you're doing it all the time, then it just becomes your new comfort zone. But at the time, yeah, it was really hard. I'm not somebody that which you'd know nobody would believe me, but I am not that person that would take selfies or do anything like that. I would just not really in a great place myself. And now I know that it's not about me. I think that's the other thing. I want people to recognize it's me that's selling it, but it's not about me, it's about the house. So as long as they know that it's me that's selling it and on each side. So if you notice a lot of my videos, I don't talk a lot on them. They're like, I'll be on at the beginning and on at the end and that's it. But it is about the house and it's about getting it noticed, isn't it? So yeah, I just got over myself and decided that I needed to put my big girl pants on and do it. Because it's all about video, isn't it? It's like, it's so important. And that has exactly what got me noticed. So
I think it's one of those things, isn't it? And I can talk from personal experience here. I kind of think the more you do it, the less you care effectively. I'd start off with, I was like, oh my God, like I blinked twice, like, oh my God, I can't use that video in a million years. Now for like my pictures and video content, I'm like, as long as my eyes aren't closed, like that's a good picture. Like that's fine. The people know what my face looks like, know what my voice sounds like. I might think I'll sound like a posh muppet or whatever it may be. But like that's online, it's out there, like just kind of deal with it. And I think it's definitely one of those things, the more you embrace it, the sort of easier life gets.
absolutely. I'm obviously the other way. I listen back to my stuff and I think, "Oh my god, you sound so Yorkshire, it's ridiculous." But like I said, it is exactly what has got me noticed and my properties noticed and me noticed and now my team noticed. So it's just for me, it's a massive, massive part of how a state agency is done now. So I always want to stand.
And talking of imposter syndrome, so you mentioned you've been quite open historically before about sort of hitting the wall, imposter syndrome, all these sort of things. How do you bounce back when you feel that way? Because I imagine that, you probably had imposter syndrome when you first launched the business, probably imposter syndrome when you first kind of did video content, probably imposter syndrome when you first got a team around you. Sort of how do you sort of bounce back from that and go, actually, I can do this?
I struggle with imposter syndrome daily, but it's like having them 2, like, little voices on your shoulders, isn't it? So, like, you just have to tell one to just stop being ridiculous and get on with it. Um, and again, the more that you do things when I first started the business, I said yes to everything. And that was really, really good for me because, like, I met all these new people. I said yes to meetings and coffees and all sorts of different things. And just by having those yes meetings, it got me out there and even more so this week, I'm absolutely bricking it because I'm hosting my own event. So I can sit here and talk and stumble over my words and do all that kind of stuff, but and I can go in anybody's sitting room and win a listing, but not everyone's, but you know what I mean? Not for everybody, that I get that. But, like, speaking in front of everyone on a yeah, that scares me. But now I'm of the mindset, well, if I don't try it and I don't do it, then I never will. So then I just do.
And
Might
what's
be rubbish,
the
but there.
No, I'm sure it'll be absolutely brilliant. I think that what's the kind of future goal for the business? I appreciate this might be a question for later on the podcast, but what's the sort of future goal? So you mentioned kind of hitting these sort of not necessarily glass ceilings, but kind of boundaries within your head where you're like, okay, it's me and it's my personal brand, and oh now it's video, and oh now it's a team, and now it's an event, for example. What's the future goal? What's sort of the barriers you see ahead of you that you think, so actually, I look at that person, I think I can do that as well, sort of thing.
That is such a good question. I absolutely love my job and I love estate agency, but and I don't want to sound like I'm being like, I don't, oh, it's really difficult. It's really hard sometimes, and taking everybody's emotions on, and the stressful situations, and the process is just diabolical. There, there has to be a bit of an out route, I guess, for me. So having the team that I've now got on board and that I'm building, I've got somebody else that's joining the team. I want to be able to see them flourish and expand the brand and do what they need to do. And I enjoy doing things like this, and maybe not so much on stage just yet, but maybe in the future that might be something. I just think there's got to be somewhere else that I can help, and it might not just always be agency. So again, when I look back now and look at even winning the awards, I used to win awards and things like that, and when I worked at Spice Heart, and I absolutely loved it, and I'm not, I wouldn't be where I am without all that. But if you would have asked me, like, would I be on a podcast, would I be a champion for women in a state agency, with all these things that have happened to me, like, there's no way that I would have done any of that without doing the business and where, do you know what I mean? I just find it's nice to reflect back and think, "My God, look at that. It's crazy." In that, like, I think I've been going for 5 years now, so it's just mental. But the best 5 years ever.
And how important has, I suppose, community is probably the best word. You mentioned women in estate agency there, but I know you've also mentioned historically you're kind of in a group of estate agents as well. Obviously, EXP is a bigger sort of model, and there's conferences, etc. How important is that? Because I appreciate estate agency can be a pretty lonely world sometimes, especially when you know homeowners just blamed you for everything. How has kind of that community around you in whatever asset it may be helped you?
Oh, I think it's so important, and I think actually being in the corporate world to now not being in that, like, they've got it, obviously, you've got your team members and stuff there, but, like, there's so much more that's out there that you want to shake people and go, "Oh my god, come to this, come to this, come to this." I've got serious FOMO now about different conferences that I can't get to for whatever reason that might be, but the the fact that everyone is so supportive and actually wants you to do well, and also supporting one another when it, like you said, when times are hard, and it can be really difficult. I've got people that I'll phone up and moan to immediately, and then they're like, pull me back round, and then you think, right, yep, they're right, let's crack on, new day, it's all fine. And likewise, I've been able to do that for other people as well. But I think the community side of things is, well, it's creating that culture, isn't it? And I want to do the same for my team and make sure they're all happy, because it's all about talking, isn't it? I think if people forget to talk, then it can be really, really lonely.
Yeah, and I think it's, I mean, I've been guilty of this historically in the past when I've kind of worked with teams. And then this is like when I was kind of on the front line effectively, and I would leave one position. I'll be like, oh my God, I'll never get a team as good as that again, sort of thing. And I'll go to the next office and I'll be like, these guys are great. Like these guys are just as good, sort of thing. And it's almost like that sort of fear of the unknown. You kind of think what you've got at the moment is absolutely fantastic, but everyone else is a little bit scary. I remember like when I first launched and looking at people's LinkedIn profile pictures before I messaged them, and I'm like, "Oh god, they look like a scary guy." Like, I'm not sure, but then you'd have a video call, they'll be like the nicest people in the world, sort of thing. You think I've just like built that up into them being some scary monster before we actually get any communication with them. So I think it's always that way that actually you sometimes look at events and look at other people and look at other offices and other estate agencies and other brands, sort of thing. And think, oh my god, they're I could never talk to them. But then you meet them and they're like, "Oh my god, how are you?" Hugs and kisses, sort of thing, and it's so much easier.
Way easier, way easier, and it's nice to know that you've got that support network if needed. Like, I had, my first and hopefully last complaint, um, last December. Oh my God, it absolutely ruined me because I've never dealt with anything like that, and especially when it's my name, I was like, "Oh my gosh," you know what I mean? It was horrific. But the level of like, "Oh, I can phone her, kind of she's gonna help," and it was just so nice to know that I wasn't on my own, that I was right in what I was saying, and, like, I know that's when times are hard, but, like I say, having that network and support network is just so important, not only within women in state agency, but within the EXP network and within the wider group. Like, I given out your book to my, to my new agents. "Read this." And then when I saw you at a conference, I'm like, "Oh my God, it's you." So, we all do this same thing where you, like, build somebody up to be something that yeah, might not be.
Yeah, well, I'm terrifying in real life, just anyone listening you. No, absolutely go for it. 6'5", built like a tree. Uh, so let's talk about social media in that case. I feel like I can't have you on the podcast without absolutely picking your brains on social media because I was looking through your Instagram page and I was like, I think this is better than mine. And it's not even hold myself a high regard. I was looking at it, I was like, oh, that's really good. You got a really good carousel there. That's a really good video. That's really good content. And I thought this is really good stuff. So talk me through how your social media has sort of evolved over time because obviously when you first started 5 or so years ago, I'm sure it's sort of different from how it is today. So what's your sort of journey been from sort of being, I guess, fairly novice-ish to beginning to start off with to kind of where you are now, which is kind of a seasoned veteran of social media effectively?
I still find it quite a difficult thing because you've got to think about it daily. Until maybe 2 months ago, I've always done it all myself, right? So it's always authentically me, it's genuinely me. That's why there's me dancing and being ridiculous, but also then there's other stuff now that, I've got somebody that's helping me with it, just in terms of timing, because you've got so much to think about, and yeah, I'm trying to do my day job, and then also, "Oh my God, I've not put any content on today, I need to do that, I need to do that." So by having, um I guess that what I always said to my team members is and how I started 5 years ago was, it was the thing that was free. So and I can duplicate myself in that free world. It's not like you're sending one letter to one person, it's like there's lots of people that see it. So it's about getting that audience built as much as you wanna build an audience for your house, but for me and my brand. So I just religiously posted between 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock every day. And so, like, I can remember even when I first started, my mum were like, "Oh my God, Linda, you're so busy." And I'm like, "Yeah." Thinking, Not really, mum, but if that's what is coming across, then that's good." So and I find it difficult sometimes to put what you're gonna put out there and things like that. Obviously, the more houses and things that I've got, but I also don't want that either. I don't want it to be just house, 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 you know? It's gotta be a bit of you and a bit of your personality, and, like, I get people now that are going out to valuations and they're like, "Oh my God, Linda, I like you're here." I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, "I've followed you for years." I'm like, "What?" But that's how it should be, innit? I am just me. So if and then I also, like I say, I understand I'm not for everybody, but the whole social media thing for me has been massive. And if you look, I haven't got absolutely shed loads of followers. I've got a really nice, like, bunch of people that genuinely, I think in fact, I was listening to your podcast about it the other day about the whole, like, sending somebody a little message if they start to follow you and things like that. Oh my God, I don't do that, but maybe I should. Um, because I feel like the people that I have got that follow me are engaging and they're genuine and do you know what I mean? They are my tribe, I guess.
Is that sort of vanity over sanity, isn't it? Um,
Yeah.
vanity. Yeah. So the people you are following, yeah, it's not the biggest number in the world, but as long as they live locally and they're not going to sell their house in the future, then you're like, great, I'll have 5,000 followers. Thanks very much. As long as they want to sell their home in the future. So if you were a new agent listening to this today and going, oh, it's all very well and good for Linda because she's got lots of properties coming on the market and she can do video tours and sneak peeks and coming soon. But if you were brand new and you're like, okay, well, what do I talk about then to kind of post every single day between 6 and 8? What sort of conversations or what topics would you be going after?
Oh my gosh, there's loads to talk about, isn't there? You could doing stuff like within your local area, what's on, what's going on, even posting other people's properties and saying, "Look, has anybody seen this?" are you a buyer? Can I help you? Some of my ones that I've moved now, but I used to live in a little village called Treaton. And I can remember taking dogs for a walk, and I've been to see a lady and she was looking for a house. And so just while I was out on the dog walk, I put a little like video out saying, look, this is what we're looking for. Can you help? I'm here to help with evaluation. And I think off the back of that, I ended up getting like 3 valuations. And again, none of those came on the market. They were just interested to know what the house was worth. But that's 3 connections that I wouldn't have made if I'd not put that video out. So I think for me, it is about being consistent and doing the content, but thinking what the, it's not just about the house, is it? I say it is about the house, but I mean, it's like, it's not just about the new stock and what's coming on. It's about what else is happening in the marketplace as well. I think Chris Watkin always says it, doesn't he? It's like we all talk about it, but the biggest thing that people talk about the property market, but then we don't actually talk about it, and we're looking at doing content. So
And is social media now your biggest sort of pull of instructions, or do you get them from elsewhere? What's sort of your non-negotiable? I wouldn't leave that lead generation method if you paid me.
it's yeah, I would say it probably has to be. My well, I don't know. I'm lucky enough to get my stuff now is just coming to me organically. So I would still say I've always said 80-20. I think it's 80% recommendation and 20% social media.
Mhm. Yeah. And to the stage now where I guess you get recognized a fair amount. Like, I mean, especially, I mean, I'm not going to ask a question about the hat, but I think the hat must be a giveaway. People must see you out and about and you must get recognized a fair amount locally.
I'm so excited. I went to Chatsworth Country Fair yesterday and got a new hat. So yes, and I do get recognised for the hat, and I'm tall and I've got loads of hair. Um, and that's all. It's all about brand awareness, isn't it? At the end of the day, I can remember even the weird thing. One of the weirdest ones was when I was going. I think it was just when I'd started. And I went to Sainsbury's and they were like, "Are you Linda Stringer?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then I'm thinking, "Oh God, have I sold your house? Have I met you before?" Because one thing I'll tell everybody as well is that I'm absolutely horrific with facial recognition. But if that person had sold their house, but they were in that house, then I'd know who they were. Do you know what I mean? But when they're out of that bit, I'm like, "Oh, I don't know who these people are." So that's also it can be quite ridiculous when somebody says that and then I don't know who they are. But also, we've been out for a drink and in pub, and then my other half's like, "Oh, for God's sake." Like, "What?" It's like, so we were sat in a little pub near us, and then some guys came over, they were like, "Excuse me, are you Linda Stringer?" I'm like, "Yes, I am, yes." Like, "Oh, we thought it were you, we thought it were you." My other half's like, what?"
It should be followed up by, you going to buy us a drink then? These things aren't free. So talk me through platforms wise, because I had a good stalk across the platforms. Are there any, which potential platforms do you focus on as they give you kind of the best result? Where would you kind of invest more of your time versus invest less of your time, kind of platform by platform?
What do you mean in terms of social media?
Yeah, so do you find you get more kind of bang for your buck on sort of Facebook, for example? Do you find you get more for kind of Instagram? Where do you place your chips with regard to priority there?
Um, I I'll be honest, I know how Facebook works, right? Um, and I'm not saying how I would describe myself as technically challenged sometimes, but I do understand how Facebook works. But I also understand that Instagram people aren't Facebook people.
Mhm.
So I try not to mix the two. I try not to just post on one and then it goes to them both, you know? I do with stories, but I don't with other stuff because I feel like the Instagram people are different to the Facebook people. So I post on Insta and Facebook daily. Try to. Um, and then TikTok I use for videos. But I did sell a house from TikTok, which is just crazy. I think in total I've sold 10 houses from social media.
And
But I would concentrate on the one that you understand more, which is all that I've done really. Still don't really understand Instagram as much as I probably should, but I try.
looking at, with regard to your socials, kind of going to that side of things, do you think there's a sort of almost like a hierarchy, or do you think it literally is a case of like whichever one you prefer, just double down that one. So for me, it's quite funny for you to say you don't understand Instagram because I'm like, Instagram, I find really easy. But then I go on Facebook, I'm like, oh my God, there's so many pop-ups and notifications. I don't know where I'm going, sort of thing. And that's for coming from a person with like groups and whatever else going on here. So do you think it's just a case of just pick one and just kind of double down on that one as much as possible?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they make it easy so that you can do both or and like just change it up a slightly. But yeah, I would definitely just like run with the one that you're most comfortable with because otherwise you're just gonna make it's difficult remembering and doing stuff anyway. So you don't wanna make it more difficult for yourself, do you?
And you do a lot of sneak peeks on your social media. You do a lot of kind of a coming soon. I don't think I can say beat the portals anymore because I think it's been copyrighted. But you do a lot of kind of coming soon, and this one's coming to market soon. Do you get a lot of traction off the back of that? Is that kind of is that more of a lead generation market appraisal wise, or is that kind of a I've got 3, 4 viewings by the time I market live on Rightmove sort of approach?
That the second, yeah. Like the market's been quite tough and the the property that I'd put on I was late. I don't like being late with stuff. You would say when I'm half an hour late for this, but I don't like being late for stuff and I tend to put on between 6 and 8 o'clock. But that particular day, about 4 weeks ago, where I'd not finished the reel until about 9 o'clock. Put it on, which was a little sneak peek one, and then woke up in the morning to a WhatsApp message saying, "Can I view this house?" So I went, "Yes, absolutely, let's get you around it." And then I'd sold it by 6 o'clock that evening, so it didn't hit the portals. Now, when I'm talking to my clients in valuations, obviously I'm talking about social media and the exposure and how good and beneficial it's been for me and my properties. But I can't promise that to everybody, obviously. But I do think that a lot of the big guys are missing a trick with socials because it is well, it's like what it used to be. You used to buy the property guide and the paper and all that kind of stuff, which is out now. That's what has replaced it, isn't it? And you can get out in so many people's eyes scarily. But yeah.
And so you've now scaled to a team around you. How have you made sure that they kind of keep their Linda stringiness, if that's even a term, in the business? So that kind of, you've kind of got your way of doing things. How do you ensure that your team members come on board, don't kind of just do their own thing? It kind of goes against your kind of your grain. How do you make sure they kind of not Linda clones? That's not what you want in the business. But how do you know they kind of do what you kind of know works for the business?
Because we talk a lot and it's all about communication. Like we've been as the team grows, so I've now got Eliane and Ruth, and then I've got another guy called George that's just about to join. And then I've got Shannon, and we spent like a office day together. So I don't have an office, but we all work from home. But I think it's important to keep that level of I don't know, camaraderie is not the right word, but like that team effort. Like maybe we're hoping to do that like once a month and just meet up and do that. Um, Obviously they don't have to wear a hat, but the
Might
whole
help, just saying.
uh, I spent like the last 5 years building up this business. They all know that it is my baby and that they don't wanna hurt that. And equally, that's what it's there for them to leverage and use to help them, you know? So I think as long as everybody understands, which they do, then it works. And I think that's the hardest part actually is trying to I've found that really difficult is finding the right people for the team, you know? It's hard in net recruitment.
100%. And how do you balance that sort of want to expand with finding the right people? Because obviously you could, technically speaking, wait forever for the perfect person, or you can kind of go, okay, I can kind of mold this person. Where do you sort of sit on that line? Because obviously, technically speaking, you wait around forever, but also you could also bring on board the first person with a pulse who says they want to be an estate agent. So how do you kind of narrow that down to make sure they're the right fit, or they kind of have got a blank enough canvas or a can-do attitude, or whatever you want to call it, that you can then actually kind of make them the person you think they can be?
Yeah, so it's about being driven, isn't it? I mean, Eliane was my first team member, and I came across her randomly on a viewing myself. And when I got to the door, when we were moving 2 years ago, I didn't book anything under my name because I just didn't want, not that everybody knows my name, that sounds like I'm being big-headed again. I'm not, but I didn't want any of the competition think that I was booking a viewing just to go and nick their, do you know what I mean? So I booked everything with Dom's name. And then when Eliane answered the door, she went, "Oh my God, are you Linda Stringer?" I went, "Yeah." So immediately I was like, she'd already crossed my path. she then went to work for somebody else and then so on and so forth. And then we've ended up having a coffee and away we went. And we just knew it was the right thing. And I'm a great believer of things happen for a reason. And I think our paths were meant to cross at that point. Ruth, who is also a team member, I sold her house. So that's how she came about. And she's been my absolute wingwoman for the last year and a half. And now she's moving forward as part of the team. And then George, it's gonna be the newest, partner agent. He sent out his CV and his cover letter and everything, and, I went and met with him. He's a bit older, not older than me, but a bit older in terms of, like, his career, and, I that's how I got my first job in estate agency, was sending out my CV and a letter, and so I guess, again, that's cross path. I'm a bit sentimental with stuff, I think, probably too much so, but it's got to be the right fit. I've also had some that wasn't the right fit as well, so.
Yeah, they can't, unfortunately, can't all be winners, unfortunately, on that side. And I think that it's important that, you have people on board that kind of understand the value, and I think people actually proactively kind of know you. People think personal brand about, getting the next instruction, and, people message me and say, "Great, you come and list my house," and that sort of personal brand. But I think people underestimate how important personal brand is when you actually look to expand your business, because people kind of it's not only your potential clients who know, like, and trust you, it's your next kind of team member or partner agent who kind of know, like, and trust you already, and therefore they kind of know what you're about, kind of know what they're getting into.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, that's gotta continue to move forward because, well, yeah, I've not built all this up for somebody to then take it away, you know? So it's everything's got to be just so. That sounds like I'm like, dotting the i's and crossing the t's and, like, micromanaging. I'm not that person either. Like, we just talk a lot. I think as long as people have got the information, they can deal with it, can't they?
Yeah, it's always walking that fine line, as I say to the guys I work with. I'm walking that fine line at any time. Like, I love you, I'm caring about you, but I'm also not trying to be a pain in the ass at the same time. So if I cross that line and I'm becoming a pain in the ass, just tell me to bugger off. I won't take it personally. I just want to make sure you're okay, sort of thing. So it's a very hard line to kind of walk down. So, final question for yourself. So if you were a agent listening to this, thinking, I'm good at selling, but I'm scared of going self-employed, what would you say to that person, and what's the one piece of advice you'd give them?
The well, I would go out and if you're only good at this, well, if you only know that you're good at the selling part, you can't. If you were going self-employed, you can't hide behind anything. You have got to be accountable. So you have to be all-rounded, know exactly what you're doing, in my opinion. And so a lot of the people that are like even Eliane, Ruth, and George, and all these people that are coming on board, they have spent a long time shadowing me. And so if they want to be able to do it, then there's loads of different self-employed models out there, and just say, "Look, is it all right? I'm really interested in coming to do this. Can I spend a Saturday with you, or can I spend a Friday with you?" And they will say, well, unless they don't want to spend time with you, but, like, generally speaking, I don't mind that. Like, people coming and shadowing me, and then you can get a full understanding. But the whole self-employed thing, like, there is nowhere to hide, so you have to be good at it. You have to be good at and care about your clients and your team and everything else. But the whole I know when you're back in the corporate side of things, I used to say I became a bit like a valuation machine. So I'd just be like, you'd see me, you'd see me, you'd see me. They'd put the trust in me, but then they'd never see me again. And that's the part that I now love, that I'm not that valuation machine. I'm there from start to finish. And so if you can't be accountable for that entire process and that entire period, then it might not be for you. But if you are and you think that you could do it and do a caring job, then that's what needs to change, isn't it? And that's what is changing, and that's why being part of the whole self-employed movement, if you like, is I love it. I've just never looked back. It's just been the best thing ever.
And thank you so much for coming today. I've been really appreciated. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much.